Oh my God.
Speaking of being organized, yeah, that was beautiful, but we didn't record a word of it.
Oh, I didn't record it on my side.
Man, if I were just more organized, this would not happen. Podcast by Friday with Bill Griggs and Kingsley Grant. We help people to create their minimal viable podcast by taking bold action to defeat procrastination and to get their voices heard. Oh, man.
And I thought you hit record when you said, okay, me, I'm putting on pause here. And I thought you had to go back and hit record it.
Well, I put it on pause. And, so...
And kept it on pause.
Yeah, and it stayed on pause. So, that beautiful flow of consciousness we just had is gone,
I am Kingsley Grant.
And I'm Bill Griggs.
And we are the hosts of Podcast by Friday.
Okay, let's see. We're looking at this. What episode? Okay.
This is episode 7.
Yeah, so this is the 7th episode that we're recording. You realize we beat the odds, right?
What odds?
Well, most podcasts, if you look at the podcast, most podcasts never make it past 7 episodes.
Mm. Oh, what? Why do you think that's so? Because if I was to use, my educated guess would be, and I have an educated guess. I want to hear what your thoughts be on why you think some podcasts fade even after 3 or 4 or 5 episodes.
Oh, it's a lot of work, and if you don't have a plan on how you're going to do it, it's real easy to get overwhelmed. I mean, for me, the organization is my biggest issue with it. How do I do this? What tools do I need? What things should I be focused on?
And like your Spreaker example.
Yeah. Well, the other day I was on Spreaker and, I'm looking around and they had just come up with a bunch of new tools and things. And, next thing I know, I look around and it's 3 hours later and I haven't done a thing that I was supposed to do to get the podcast out when it was supposed to. And
so you got distracted by Spreaker's new and shiny things, right?
Yeah. Down the rabbit hole I went. It's just you've got to be in better control of that stuff, and I think that's part of why so many podcasts fail early on.
Yeah, I think those are the distractions that come up, and not having a plan. I remember this one friend of mine always say this: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, And I find that also the overwhelm because of the different distractions that come their way. And so when they're now, say, for example, your example, after 3 hours and you have your podcast episode to work on, it becomes so frustrating and overwhelmed. It's like, oh, man, you just throw your hands up in the air and just like, forget it. I just can't. And that frustration leads to where people just, lack, okay, I'm not going to put an episode out today because I just didn't get around to doing it. So, and today comes tomorrow, the same thing happens, and before long, no episode goes out, and so forget it. Why even start back over since I've not had one out for such a long time?
Mm. So let's talk about how not to get distracted and the tools that we use to help us to get organized.
That sounds great because, hey, that's what I believe people don't want to fade. So I think these tools will be very helpful in avoiding those calamities, or catastrophes.
Yeah, let's keep this chaos in check. I haven't looked at any of the other services like Podbean or, frankly, there were so many of them at the, with booths set up that I just ignored them.
Yeah, I know there's.
There's probably something really good there. I just, didn't. I didn't go down that rabbit hole because I was okay with what I had.
Yeah, me too. He also some sources for music that I I just kind of screenshot because I didn't even know of these ones. IODA, PodSafe music from indie labels. IODA Prominent, and there's Musically, Calley, PodSafe music from indie artists, and CC Mixter Creative Commons music. Great for sound beds. I don't even have any idea what those are.
Yeah. Also, through Spreaker, they just came out with a new royalty-free library, which is really actually good. The music is good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but royalty-free is not the same as free.
Yeah, I know. Because you still have to pay, and you still have some limitations in there too.
Yeah. But Spreaker just updated all of their stuff, and now they're offering courses in mentoring, custom artwork, transcriptions, and create mobile apps for you. All of this stuff. Oh, they've even got a WordPress theme. That I want to look at. Okay. Let's see what that looks like.
Don't go down the rabbit trail.
No. I just want to see if it will do a better job of putting up the separate episodes, in a more manageable way. It actually looks kind of nice.
But then you're not bringing people back to your site. You're using their platform to everything.
No. This is a WordPress theme.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it would still say podcast by Friday. It just looks like it's not a bad looking theme.
But then you have Profit Builders, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I prefer Profit Builder. I just wanted to see what their
okay.
The audio plugin thing looked like. Anyway, rabbit hole for later.
You know what I did yesterday? I sat down yesterday evening and I realized that I needed to put. We talked about this before. A workflow, like a calendar workflow stuff, and I've been journaling about it. So kind of, I said, I'm gonna sit down yesterday, and I went back to Michael Hyatt, had a sample of his Excel spreadsheet of how he had his own. And so when I can look at this, okay, how can I do something like that, but on Google Calendar, so it's all, so I don't have to go to a spreadsheet and all, back and forth. So I found that, you could create a calendar. So what I did yesterday was put together, this is like what I came up with. I'm even a CEO, but it just gave me a chance to map out my week and put inside there, like, blocks of things that I want to do. And just to look at this, it feels so manageable. I feel like, I could be very productive doing something like this because, I start my morning at 5 a.m. And I was able to, so far, on track to do those things. And I was like, journaling this morning about the whole thing and so how it felt. It felt like I can become productive and accomplished. So
you're already productive and accomplished, but you can be better at it.
I can be better. Yeah, better.
More.
I can be more productive and better accomplished in what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah.
But I think I was telling my wife. I said I feel like sometimes I feel discombobulated, and sometimes I have so many different things in my head, different things going at the same time, and which one do I work on? And I just do the urgent or the shiny object.
Yeah.
Over the important things.
Yeah, I and also find motivation to be lacking. I'm in a different situation than most because I don't have a day job.
Right.
I have retired and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Kind of as my passion project and as my
right.
business. So if I'm not feeling motivated to do it that day, I may not do it. And I might not feel motivated for a few days.
Exactly.
And that can be a problem if you've got to keep a regular schedule.
I agree. And that's why I think something like this might help you very much because you would have, okay, what does my week look like? And so even though I don't feel motivated, this could serve as a motivator because you see where, okay, this leads to that, leads to that, this leads to that, all tied in together.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. You can share that with me, and that would be really cool. Because I tend to use the calendar on the iPad, and it is okay, but it doesn't really get it done.
Yeah, and that's where I say, you know what, I was trying to figure out what could I use that would be helpful, and I said, you know, Google have a pretty much, you know, they have a good handle on all of that. I mean, there's no question about that. And so I said, okay, instead of a Google Calendar, maybe just to be, but I know you don't use Google that much, right?
No, but I'm probably going to start because it appears that the Chrome browser is finally becoming the leader as far as the functionality and the ability. You know, Firefox is broken.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sad about that because I've had Firefox for 5 or 6 years and, you know, really liked it, which is why I'm, you know, not why I haven't been drinking Google's coffee. You know, it's just one of those things. I was used to it. I had all my bookmarks and everything on Firefox. And so in order to get all of that over, I'm sure there's probably some way to import them. But, you know, that's another rabbit hole to go down to find out how to do that. And really don't know how productive I would be in the meantime. But I don't, as a rule, use the Google Docs stuff because I had Microsoft Office and things like that. So, you know, Google is cheaper because it's free.
Yep, that's why that's what I look at. It's free, and hey, anyway. So I think it's something that something worth looking into, and
you see, and also as an educator, Microsoft makes all of their products available to us for free, so it's another reason that we keep drinking the coffee. You know, so, yeah,
I could see how that creates a sense of, like, you know, like what Apple does. Apple tries to keep you once Apple, always Apple. They do everything possible to make sure you drink the Kool-Aid and stay drinking the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no question about that. So let me see. I want to just kind of share with you here, and what I did was I can share. I think I share a screen. I think that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Sorry, you see my calendar?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was, you know, you can create a calendar. So I created a calendar called.
Very colorful.
I had to put the colors in there for me to be able to pop, but I just printed in black and white. So I call it weekly workflow. And what I did was, for example, things that I know I'm gonna do in the morning. So 5 to 5:45 across here, I call my quiet time. Then I have the next level is to get ready for the gym. And then from 6:15 to, this is my gym time here. When I get back, I do my journaling, meditation, reading. And then, you know, it's going to be on today I had podcasts from to Friday with you and I from 9 to 10. Then I have record interviews, write blogs, content creation. Then afternoon, I do marketing for emails, phone calls, social media, so on, whatever I do, that's marketing me. And of course, it's my first week, so it's going to be changing to somewhat as I get a bit tighter, you know, freshen out things. And then, of course, across the week, I have the same thing, product creation, videos, and other forms. So each day may change, but right now I just put it across as general. So I'll get a feel of the land, a scope of the land, more or less, as the week goes by. Then on Friday, I kind of build a session with you. And for Saturday, I do my other things.
The honeydews.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then I have my commute to the office on 3 days, which I have time for that. And then these are my 3 days at the office, so I just block those out already.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have on Fridays, the makeup ideas done for projects, podcasts, and so on. And then date night, of course, is Friday evening. Then I have on Sunday, I have a time set aside for reviews, my work schedule, and so on. And then load buffer for, which I'm not doing right now, but it's going to be new, load buffer for social media for the week. And then schedule release of my Success Caribbean Style podcast for Monday. which I released this morning, and then Monday night just Toastmasters. So this is going to give me a general feel of my week. And then so by having this, even this morning, I said, okay, I know where I'm going, I know what I need to do, and trying to follow the structure as close as possible is going to help me, I think, to, like I said, become more productive. And then what happened is I have my other calendar, which you can create several calendars. So mine that I have for my appointments and so on, if I click on this, it just shows us inside the calendar. So that means if I have other things to do, which is on my regular calendar, like appointments and so on, I can pop that on and it can tell me, okay, even though I have these slots scheduled out, I can easily know what I need to do on that day. So it's going to change how those blocks are, but it's not consistent that it's going to change. So this is going to be the backdrop, and I'm going to put the different things on top of this, or the layers from time to time, So that's what I have, and where I got that from was Michael Hyatt had
a spreadsheet, yeah.
Yeah, so which was helpful to me was so this one here was what Michael Hyatt had, and so this is what I kind of used. He had a spreadsheet, and so he put he had a Monday strength training, Tuesday cardio, and so on, right through to Sunday. Mm-hmm. Then he had shower, dress, and eat. And everything's all process email from 7:30 till 8:30, and they have blogging, record and edit podcast, new content creation, appointments, and then Saturday is all blank for you, Then he has his writing, new content creation, a whole thing on Wednesday and Thursday. So he knew what he had to do, and media interview. So all is done on one day. And then for his plan tomorrow, at the end of his day, from 5 to 5:30 to 6:30, is planned tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And everything is just really off the grid, just to do his own things.
Yeah, I like that. He's got dinner with Gail, then he's got friends, then he's got another dinner with Gail, and then he's got a date with Gail.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. I assume Gail is his significant other.
That's his wife. Yeah.
But put it on there.
I could send this to you because this is what I use to kind of create my own, and it's kind of. But it's an Excel, so I
actually find your calendar more helpful than his spreadsheet.
So I think I can share. I think if you have Google, I think I can share this calendar because I saw where I go.
I wonder
here.
if there's a way to make it a template or something.
Yeah, I think I could do that. But if I can go here, I think there's a way to. Oh no, it's
Yeah, because if you shared your calendar, then I would probably end up making changes to your calendar unless I had the ability to save it as another. I'd have to look at it. I don't. Yeah. Like I said, I don't use Google up to this point.
Right.
But it's maybe that's got to go on my to-do list. Learn more Google stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a way. I'm gonna try to figure out how I could send this to you, and possibly what you can do is get the template. I'll figure that out and send it to you sometime today. But I think it may be helpful, Bill, for you, especially as you described earlier about the fact that not having for motivation and so on. Mm-hmm. So, and then what I've done is I went back to Trello, which I'm still I'm putting down everything I need to do in my Trello. Mm-hmm. And then what I like about Trello is I used to use a thing called Wunderlist as well. It's a WUNDER. It's like the two words, the W and the U. It's like, man. Okay. But it's how it's spelled, Wunderlist. Yeah. It works something like this, but allow you to create, like I have what I call my big rocks that I need to do. There are something that my must do things that I have to do, like I need to do my marketing, my business. This is my business idea. So then what happened is I have my this week list and then to-do list. And what I'm doing is dumping everything on my to-do list, and it's very hard to see. And So that's a to-do list, right? Then it gives. I create a this week thing. Then I create my big rocks, which I have to have in my big rocks phone call. I can't tell that right now. So what I'm gonna do is now when I look at that, I'm gonna take that and then look at my sheet I've created, and then I can put on there what needs to get done this week inside those blocks. So if I have what do I need to get done, this will give me. It have to fit somewhere in one of these blocks that I have created. So I know I'm still going to do the other things I had up top, but inside this box, I may put creation, but it's part of my to-do this week. So I can just drop those inside there and use that time to do those things in that slot I've created.
Yeah. Yeah, because this very much mirrors what we did when we launched our podcast by Friday. Podcast by Friday podcast. Because we went down and we figured out the tasks that we had to do.
Right.
And we assigned them to each of us and we put them up by day, how we were going to do it. And then we went and we knocked them out. And,
yep.
We're both busy guys.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think helped me to have us have done that, because once I know what I need to do, I think I can go ahead and do it. It's sometimes for me to sit down and say, well, tell me what to do. What do I need to do? And that's where I have to help myself. Kingsley, what do you need to do? Put it on paper. If you know what you need to do, you can get it done.
Yeah. And a lot of times I have issues with this because I tend to get an idea, research it really quick, and then do it. And that can sometimes get in the way of other things that needed to be done prior to that. So, like, one of the things that I make and sell, it's an actual physical object, came about like that. It was, hey, let me, I have this idea. Let me go see what it is. And I was in the middle of a project at school that was essentially all of the senior students' final grade project, So, but I kind of dropped what I was doing for about a week. went and explored this, made a prototype, come back to it, and tweaked it, and then made a batch of them and put this product out there. And then came back. Now, the students didn't suffer any, but when I think back about it, there could have been another time to do that. A better use of the time. I still make money from that product now, but had I been better organized and had more systems in place to do it, I could have had a segment in my calendar where I act upon the ideas that I had during the week, and that would have been a regularly scheduled thing. It may have taken longer to get the product to market, but other things wouldn't have suffered. Right.
And that's why I think sometimes I heard this guy this morning listen to our podcasts because I'm listening because he's going to be, he asked him to be on his show. And so I didn't know about his show before. It's called Men of Abundance. Anyway, so I was listening to his show, and he had this guy interviewing this guy, and he was saying how if you don't have systems, you don't have a business. Because what happens, systems is your business. It's what helps you to stay on track. It's what helps you to get things done. And I pondered that for a second. I said, you know what? That's where my downfall. I have been down my downfall too, because where if I don't have systems in place to run what I need to run, then I'm like a chicken sometime with his head cut off, run every different way, and I'm spinning my wheels, and time is going by, and that's still not moving further ahead. I'm just like in the same place, and getting you look very, very, very busy. But as I say, it can be busy, but busy is not a sign of progress.
Yeah. Kate Erickson is probably the smartest person I know of when it comes to systematizing things. She and John Lee Dumas have their podcast, just killing it in every aspect. And it's because Kate systematized things for her. I mean, she did a presentation at the podcast movement about, just touching on it. And the first year that she did talk about that, she showed everyone how to do and how to create one system for one thing in their business. And that was what you accomplished by the end of her talk. And I don't know if those videos are out there for people to look at or download for free. I know that you can pay to have access to see those videos, but if that one's out there somewhere, it would be a good one for folks to look at.
But they're available now. This year, you still can. If you went to Podcast Movement and paid, you can have access. They send out those links to all the things that you missed.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the person who didn't attend.
Oh yeah, they can't. They don't.
They probably have to pay.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe we could reach out to her at some point and have her come on the show. That would be.
Because I've heard her on she's been on the shows before, so I know I think she will probably come on the show. I mean, that's the reason why she wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, what we've been talking about so far this morning is productivity hacks. Things that help better organize you so that you can execute on your plans. I mean, we're talking about your calendar and your and everything that makes you more effective at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's a great episode, actually.
I think that's a great episode to have and talk about what we're doing and so we're talking to the process. All
right. So, one other thing, I use a few things that help me to stay better organized. I use for a lot of the things that I do, I use Scrivener because it's very good at sequentially putting things in. But I use it differently than it was designed for. I'm not using it as a writing tool in a lot of cases, but as an organizational tool. So I'm putting out an idea. Okay, I have a thought about episodes, and so I'll just put down bullet points and make each one a folder, and then I'll rearrange. Well, these groups go over here, and I'll drag them over, and I'll put them in that way, and then I'll fill them out or a little bit. It's kind of like mind mapping, and I know that there is other software that is specifically mind mapping. In fact, I've used one. I've used MindMaster and MindJet. I've used those. But what was helpful to me with the Scrivener, and by the way, Scrivener is a writing tool. For those who don't know, it's about $47, and it's very popular among writers. But what's cool about doing my ideas in Scrivener instead of a mind map is when I'm done fleshing out the idea, I already have the basis for a book or ebook or a podcast or whatever because it's already in that format, and I just have to put in more text. And it allows me to capture entire web pages and things like that.
That's the way we sound.
Yeah, it is.
It is?
Scrivener.
Okay, Scrivener. For some reason, I don't know where I thought that I saw it as an E was missing somewhere.
You're thinking like Fiverr.
But that's Fiverr.
Fiverr. Yeah. No, this is Scrivener. Scrivener. And okay. I'll put a link in the show notes to Scrivener. Anybody who wants to. In fact, on one of my other blogs, it's several years old now, but I did a post explaining why I like Scrivener and what I was using it for. And maybe that'll help somebody. So I'll put a link to that in there too.
Yeah. I think where you said earlier that Scrivener was used is really initially made for writers. But I think what you have found, as I've seen you use many times, like I said, it's almost like a mind map. You can dump resources you find and so on. But what I like MindMeister. I like that because it helps me to kind of see things. That's one tool I've used also very, very well. And this whole idea of trying to, manage I say manage my time, but manage my tasks better. But I found also that I've used like Trello, Trello, as a place to dump to-do lists. So all the to-do things I wanted to get done. And then from a big, long running to-do list, I can create another category of, for example, to do this week, and just pull over the things I want to do this week from that one long list. And then from the to do this week list, I can pull what do I need to do today, so I can create another category. What can I do today? So I now have a long to-do list. From there, I put it to just what I want for this week into this week list. So I've transferred it over to this week. And then from the this week list, I put into my today, so what I need to do today. And that's also a tool which I've used. And to be completely honest, I have not used it for a long time. But now that I realize the need for systems, if I'm going to be successful in my life, I've got to go back to these tools that I once used, which also have been helpful, and I think will help me to be more productive and better accomplishing what I'm trying to get done.
Now, Trello was traditionally used for project management. Teams
and to share between people who are working on projects.
One of the members of my mastermind group, Dr. Andy Makar, he is a very big proponent of using Trello. In fact, he set up Trello to use in our mastermind group so we could all collaborate and see what everyone was working on, who was scheduled to speak. We didn't do a hot seat version of our mastermind. We did occasional presentations where there was something that we had figured out, and so we shared that with everyone else. And we'd have that scheduled down in Trello, and there'd be other things that you said you were going to be accountable for. Like I'd say, well, I want my the first chapter of my ebook done this week, and we would make that a card in Trello. And during the week, somebody would contact us just to make sure that we had accomplished that.
That's cool.
Priority, So
it's a great accountability tool.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's not. I don't think it's expensive. I think it might be free in some cases.
Yeah, there's a free version of it, and if you go really in the Premier, I think there's a Premier version as well. But I think for us and in podcast by Friday, just for people we're talking to, they would not need more than just a free version to get going. At least it's one way to organize themselves. What I also find, Bill, and we're talking about this, is that simple Google Calendar, and Google is free, and I love free, baby. Come on now. The idea of the calendar, you can have it for your to-do list is also there. Your doc, everything is there for Google. But I find that you can create these calendars in Google, and just choose to show that one calendar. And for example, it could be what do you want to do this week? What's your week look like? So it could be your week is typical the same almost every day. There might be, of course, some things that may come up, but you have a kind of a template that runs your week, that guides your week. I find for me, I have that. I know Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, between 2 and 8, I know exactly where I'm going to be, and that does not change. Very rarely does that change. I know early morning, I can manage my early morning before everybody get up. And that could be consistent, a constant for me, and that doesn't change. So this Google Calendar have enabled me to go in and plug in those things that are going to be almost like constant. They are going to be week to week, going to be that way. And then I can put my to-do things that I have to do, just pop those into another calendar, and you could call it my to-do calendar. So if I just merge those calendars together, now I won't miss anything because I'll see, and maybe we can put like a graphic, an artwork of some kind, graphic in the show notes. I can show basically what that might look like so a person can get an idea what we're talking about. But I find it could be very, very helpful. I know so many people I've spoken to who these systems idea, especially having a schedule for their weekly workflow, is so critical for success. And I really, have kind of gotten away from this for a long time, but I really feel that I'm at a place right now where I need to make my time count. And this is going to help me to really get myself better organized and, as I said to you earlier, more productive and better accomplished in some things that I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Google has many apps that people can use. I mean, I just went to the Google page and I'm just looking at their apps. And, there's, Google Maps, YouTube, there's Play, which, is like the iTunes store, News, Gmail, Google Drive, which is, free cloud storage to manage your stuff. This calendar, translator, photos, shopping, wallet, finance, documents, books, Blogger,
spreadsheet.
Yeah, and Google's got a bunch of that.
Yeah,
this one looks interesting. My business.
And the good part is it's free.
yeah. Don't go down the rabbit hole. No. Hit the back button. Ooh, wow. Okay,
stay with me, Bill. Stay with me.
Never mind. Close that tab. Anyway,
and this is what happens sometimes. Of course, in our business, right? We find that sometimes we can get so carried away because one thing leads to another, and then as a podcaster who wants to get their podcast out by Friday, they tend to veer off into all different kind of rabbit trails, and then
Ooh,
Friday
shiny.
comes and they say,
Ooh, bright, shiny.
and it needs to be, and it feels good, right? Because it's an easy win. It's stroke the ego. You feel like, oh man, I'm getting something done. I'm learning something new. But then the most important thing is your podcast by Friday gets, because something is have to pay the price for that.
Yeah. Now, I would be remiss at this point if I didn't mention something that I know a lot of people use. I don't, but I know you do. People swear by this thing, and it is Evernote.
Yes. Evernote is really one of those things that I can't do without, because I can just is it my walk-in filing cabinet in my pocket. So on my phone or on, of course, my iPad, it can't fit in my pocket, but in I have a backpack, I can carry it inside there. But my phone, my Evernote, I put in there, you name it. Whatever you put in your filing cabinet can be in my Evernote. What I like about that, if I go someplace on the internet and see something that is interesting, I can just click that really quickly and sync that into my Evernote, and it's saved for a later time, so I don't have to go down rabbit trails, right? I get carried away at that time. For me, also, I use it for, if I have for show notes, if I'm creating some notes or even writing a blog article, I write it in my Google Note, in my Evernote, and it's there, and it sits there for a while. I can always go back and rework it until it's all ready. But it's mobile. I can have it with me everywhere I go. When I'm finished, I put it, like most of my articles I write for my blogs or for Huffington Post or any other place I write for, I find I first write it in Evernote and can go back and tweak it and add more things to that, and then I put it into a Word doc and then ship it up to those platforms or into my own blog site. But it's invaluable, and the good part is most of what you need to do is free. You don't have to pay for it. I pay because I have the premium version, which is not a whole lot of money, but what I get for that return on that investment is just invaluable.
Well, I have never set up Evernote correctly, I think, and that seems to be the sticking point, because I've been through a couple of online courses where they suggest using Evernote for everything, but because I never got the initial setup and I also never got a really good walkthrough of it, it's just one of those unknowns that I keep avoiding that rabbit hole. What I'm referring to, I keep mentioning rabbit hole. It's like in Alice in Wonderland when she, goes down the rabbit hole and, off into a new adventure, and she, off she goes. It wasn't a simple thing. So to me, my excuse with Evernote has just been, well, that's just one more rabbit hole, and I'm trying to avoid going down those until I need it, because I believe in just-in-time learning.
Yeah.
Learning about these things when I need them. And so far, I haven't had a situation that just screamed Evernote because I hadn't looked into it enough to know that that's the situation I need. But everybody I know is telling me, oh, Evernote. And for whatever reason, I've been resisting the pull of that. So maybe I need to reevaluate that, because if it'll make me more productive, that's the goal.
Yeah, and the thing is that what I find, Bill, is the good part about Evernote, it's like a storage for. Some people have used it for their receipts, so they go someplace, they just scan their receipts in and keep it in Evernote for the tax purposes. People who want to take pictures and upload it in Evernote, or a video that they want to make sure it's in there, and it could be saved in a certain category, so I can have everything at one place that I can just be able to visit in Evernote. And so I find it to be, a place where there's not a day that go by, let's put it that way. I don't think there's a day I can remember going by that I've not used Evernote for something.
That's pretty high recommendation then.
Yeah, I think a person who is even playing podcasts by Friday could use that to keep track of certain things. Also, for example, the topics they want to write about or speak about in their podcast. They can create a category in Evernote and call it, my topics for my podcast. And then they can do a brain dump there and can go back and see all the topics they have made. And what happened is you can create a checklist where you can just check the box and it automatically checks off that done. So now you already did a show on that. So you don't have to worry about, oh, did I do a show on that before? You can go back and it says it right there. You can put a calendar type of thing where you could say, when you did it, you could put it under a certain date that you did it. So I think it has so many. I don't even use it for all that is capable of doing. And you can share documents with people who have Evernote. You can share Evernote documents with those people as well. So, and the good part is that I think that one of the best part, when you save your documents or save whatever it is, you put like the name of it, but you can also put tags, and you can go in and search Evernote and find those documents by tags or by, however you saved it. So you don't have to go and say, oh, where did I put this document again? Oh, all that stuff. You don't have to worry about that. Just type in the tags that you saved it under, or the name of the note you saved it under, and it will show a whole bunch of them that you have those tags under, so you can know this is what the document I'm looking for. You can find it very easy, very quickly, and there you go.
Okay. So if somebody's looking to get Evernote, they would go to evernote.com, evernote.com. We talked about Evernote. Is there any other really cool productivity things that you use?
I was looking at my phone here just now. I think, are you talking about like Buffer? Do you use it in a Hootsuite and all that? But I don't use Hootsuite, but I've used Buffer, which I'm getting back into using Buffer, like I mentioned before.
Yeah, I've never really used those. I do all of my own tweeting.
Okay.
But it should be automated in some circumstances, in a lot of circumstances. It's just not one of the things that was important to me. I would actually rather have direct, real contact with the people. But that's just me.
Right. But as far as a person who is out doing a podcast by Friday and they want to create systems that would help them to become more efficient, because I know sometimes people are just so busy doing everything else that they don't have time. If they can find something to some, like for me, I would say be the guy who would be the lazy type. Not that I'm lazy, but I would rather take the lazy route. So if I can not have to do something over and over again, I would prefer that.
So are you currently using it or no?
Yeah, I use Buffer. Yeah, but I don't use it as frequently as I used to. But I'm going to get back into that now that I've created my workflow where once a week I want to go in, for example, on Sunday afternoons, how I have it set up right now, and take about an hour. It shouldn't take more than that, and just dump all the posts I want to have, or as much posts as possible that I want to have for that week in my social media. And that will populate my social media for me. And then I could schedule it to post, like for example, on Twitter, which is, in 20 minutes or less, what you post there is gone. It's just disappear. But if I can post that if I can repost that at some other point during the day, then I have a better chance of people seeing that post. Mm-hmm. Buffer allows me to do that. That's the same is true for Facebook and any other platform that I'm posting on. So Buffer allows me to do that, posting that over and over again several times during the week, during the month, whatever time I schedule it for. So I find it's going to be very helpful. And the good part is that if I notice a person is engaging with me on what I posted, then I can personally go in and interact with them. So I started the conversation through a automated post, but if they respond, then I can start doing a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. I tend to be the kind of person who, if a system requires a large setup at the beginning, then I tend not to go there. And that's probably to my detriment. And it's probably something that I should be handing off to someone to do for me as a more efficient use of my time, through the use of a virtual assistant, for instance. That's one very big productivity hack, to have somebody who does the things for you that you don't like to do, mm-hmm. and aren't necessarily good at, so that you can concentrate on the things that you are good at that make you money. The 80-20 principle. So, I mean, the use of a virtual assistant in a lot of cases can do that for you. I know Timothy Ferriss, his best-selling book everywhere, basically, The 4-Hour Workweek, talks about using VAs in, a very big way. And I've done some of that on a temporary basis using places like Fiverr, for instance, to do the artwork when I need it, or to, to organize things, or whatever that gig is. A guy on Fiverr is actually a virtual assistant, although not in the traditional sense that Tim Ferriss was talking about. A virtual assistant is somebody who does stuff for you on a regular basis at your discretion. Do you use virtual assistants, Kingsley?
I did. I used in the past. I've used on separate occasions. I've had one I had for a long time, and from the Philippines that I found, and one was helping me with my website design. So whenever I need some changes to do there, any update, I would use him, and he was very helpful. The other person I had is a lady. She would do all my social media and some research I would need to find if I'm researching some items or a topic. She would go in and do all this research for me and send that into a spreadsheet for me, and that would be very helpful. What I found for me is that, because again, I was not as organized and have a systems in place as I'm getting to the point of having now. Sometimes I didn't know what to give them to work on at the time, and I felt pressured as if I need to spend more time figuring out what to get them to work on, which add to my plate of one more thing.
Yeah.
So I had to eventually release them. But I know I definitely will go back to using a virtual assistant, because I think it's part of the business, and I can't do it all by myself. I'm a one-man show right now, and the virtual assistant will be very, very helpful in my business.
Yeah, I had the same realization when I got started, as far as using a virtual assistant, of knowing what do I assign them? What is it that I need doing?
Yeah.
And that in itself is difficult. And also, virtual assistants aren't a magic bullet. I mean, you have to train them to do things your way.
Yes.
And so that takes time. So you have to, figure all of that in and schedule it out so that you have training sessions with them, so that you can get them going on your system. And, you need to have a system before you can get them going on it. So,
right.
They may be a later step in this process. But one of the ways I hear people manage that, because if you're using somebody from the Philippines, say, they're not on the same time zone as you in most cases. So they're working when you're sleeping or whatever.
Yes.
But so how do you, do you get up in the middle of the night and talk with them or whatever? No. You go and you use a program like ScreenFlow or Camtasia, and you videotape or screen capture whatever it is that you're trying to teach them to do, and just send that to them. And, they can go and look at it, and you can give them a reading list to go, okay, go and research this and get back to me and now handle the project. So,
right. And the good part is that what I found in virtual assistants, especially from the Philippines, is that majority of them speak very, very good English. So that's not a barrier for communicating what it is you want them to do. That was very helpful for me. But I think what you described earlier was my problem, is that I didn't have a good workflow in place. And so as a person who's considering their podcast by Friday, I think it's very important, like you said earlier, is to think about down the road, maybe not right now, that it can get a virtual assistant, but when that time comes, and it could be, and their virtual assistant could be somebody who is not necessarily virtual. It could be someone in their home or in their neighborhood or in their school or a college student who they could also have help them with some of these work. But to do that, you've got to know what it is you want to have them to do. And I find that having some kind of systems in place that would be very helpful and would avoid what I went through of the frustration of finding another thing on my plate that I have to worry about. What do I have them to do this week? And it was pressure on my part. I didn't need more pressure added to me.
Mm-hmm. I always thought that there should be a service that had virtual assistants that you could share. So maybe Kingsley doesn't have enough work for a virtual assistant for an entire week, and Bill doesn't have enough work for a virtual assistant for an entire week. But Kingsley, Bill, and David, could all share the one virtual assistant, and then they would have enough work, and somehow split the cost instead of three of you paying for that. I mean, that's something to consider.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I see people who have also posted, "Hey, I have a virtual assistant. I don't have enough work for him or her. Would you, if you have some work to do, along the same line?" So it's not, they're not a jack of all trades. They have to be specific what they're doing. So if it's research, that is someone you have for research, and if it's social media posting, because they can't do everything. Right. So if you have to share with someone, and the person that they hire is someone who's working on their social media platforms, and you say, okay, I have some social media work to do, then we can share. That person is in the groove already doing social media stuff. So I think that's a very necessary part to know who it is you're sharing with, that they're working on something similar to yours. But that is there. I saw that many times, and I also thought about doing the very same thing. But again, I just did not have my work thing set up properly, so I didn't even venture in that direction.
Yeah, and realistically, I think we're kind of far afield for the beginning podcaster now. This is kind of an advanced subject, and we only bring it up so that it's on your radar later. So it's something that you would consider as you get busy, because you will get busy. That your calendar is going to be filling up as you podcast. There will be a million things that you never thought about.
Right. So I think the idea then I'm hearing, Bill, is probably have this person think about what are the minimal viable things they would need for their podcast. And I'm hearing having a systems in place. So it may be where they store the topics that they want to podcast about. Mm-hmm. Somewhere they can have their to-do list. We mentioned Trello. We mentioned Evernote to a place to store those things at. We also mentioned the fact that Google have, Google Docs, Google Spreadsheet, Google Calendar. Those are great tools, and it's free to use as a way to put assistance in place. We also mentioned the idea of having something like a buffer, a tool like Buffer, if they choose to want to automate their postings of their, to social media and so on. That's a place you could look. And is there anything, as we have mentioned, as far as what would help this person and kind of creating better systems that would expedite their work and make it more efficient? You can recall?
No, I'm trying to blank.
I think that's the main things we've covered, really, right?
I think we've given them a lot to think about. And, this is just, some hacks so that you don't burn yourself out. Because there's a lot of things that you've got to do in a podcast. There's a lot of things that, are only slightly related to the podcasting, but have to be done. And if you get bogged down with those little details, chances are you'll burn out and you'll stop doing it, or, whatever. And this is just my thoughts about some of the things that we've done or used to help us. And by sharing that information with them, I think we're giving them a better shot at succeeding.
Yeah, I think if I was to say, well, what's that one thing they would want to do or consider, if there's any, I think they're all important, all necessary. But I was thinking if I, getting my podcast by Friday, what my biggest thing would be, okay, what would be helpful for me is, okay, what to do, because my limited time. So I'm working a 40-hour work week, and it's on the side thing I'm doing. And I would just say, hey, probably sit down and put your calendar together and say what day or time I could schedule for putting down a bunch of topics that I would want to record my podcast on. And then it's what on the schedule for that week, when do you want to record and edit that podcast? Mm-hmm. And then also, when do you want to release that podcast? Those, I think, would probably be, in my mind, maybe you might have other thoughts, but that would be what I believe would give them a place to start and say, hey, you know what, that is manageable with all the other things we mentioned that can be done down the road later on.
Yeah, I think the two most important things to me out of this are some form of scheduling, like you said, mm-hmm. calendar, and some way to organize your ideas, whether that's Scrivener or Evernote. With those, if you get those two things under control, I think you have a good shot at doing it. Without that, you're just going to have chaos. Podcast by Friday. Take bold action to create your minimal viable podcast today. Check out new episodes at podcastbyfriday.com or on iTunes or Spreaker.